Hey everybody, welcome to the next video. This video we are going to be going over SKT versus Fnatic, and we're going to actually just do a quick VOD review of it. Hopefully it's quick. I don't know how long this will be, but let's get into it. First, we're going to go over bans, and remember that these first set of bans inside of competitive games are normally comfort picks or just really OP champions, and all of the numbers that I'm going to be using for this are based off of competitive games and not solo queue games. So firstly, Khalid has been recently playing a ton of Elise games and doing pretty well on her, plus Fnatic possibly didn't really want Khalid to be playing that pick, so they banned it out. Next is Kiana, when she's just broken, so they banned her, because this is patch 9.19 before she was nerfed, and in 9.20 she did get a tiny nerf, but yeah, she's just a broken champion. The next pick that Fnatic banned was Renekton, since it is a pretty safe blind pick, and possibly because Fnatic thinking super far ahead of blinding Bwipo Gangplank, because it's actually his best win rate on Bwipo, despite his kind of poor performance this game. And if we pull up a Con Renekton game recently, we see that he actually completely crushed Gangplank, so I think Fnatic maybe were thinking really far ahead and saying, hey, if we ban Renekton, then we can blind pick the Gangplank for Bwipo. On the SKT side, we see that they ban out Pantheon. I'm unsure if it's really just because of maybe scrims have been going pretty poorly, because we don't really have much competitive data on it, but I'm thinking that it's mostly because of scrims and SKT maybe have been struggling versus Pantheon, or they saw Fnatic players maybe playing inside solo queue. They also banned Twisted Fate because it is a comfort denial for Nemesis, as it is one of his most played champions and it has a pretty good win rate and KDA on it. SKT also banned Syndra because Reykles has been practicing inside solo queue, and it is denial of a flex, which means that it could be played basically in two different roles, and in this case would be mid lane or bot lane, and it's just always nice to ban out flex picks. So Fnatic actually start off with the Yuumi Garen, and they had a 100% win rate over 3 games prior to this loss. It does say a loss here, but that's actually the loss that they just had, and they did pretty well in it inside scrims. I'm guessing they probably had some success on it, and that's why they keep on playing it. Also, because this is the first match, if they are able to win with this and show that the Garen Yuumi is very hard for even SKT to punish, then it could draw out bans from other teams in upcoming games. And if they have to ban out Yuumi or Garen, that actually can make up easier drafts for Fnatic, because the enemy must waste a ban on the Garen or Yuumi because they're afraid of it. So they might have also wanted to pick it for that too. Fnatic also went for the GP for Bwipo because the Renekton is banned, I'm guessing, and it's just a pretty safe blind pick. A lot of people actually have picked up GP, and when I was playing inside the amateur tournament, people were playing that too. He probably does know that he is versus Akali though, because Akali has been seeing less play mid lane and more inside the top lane. Going over to the other side of draft, we can see that SKT decided to blind pick Akali because it's just a good blind, and also it's just a comfort pick for Con. And basically a good blind pick, if you don't know what a blind pick is a champion that doesn't really have real counters. Akali may be having Kled as a real counter, but it's a champion that basically can be picked before seeing the other role, and then now, even if they pick whatever champion, you're going to be fine because it's a safe blind pick. They also picked Lee Sin, who was buffed earlier before Worlds, and is probably one of the safest blind junglers who can take over games if you're really good at him, and of course Khalid is very good at him. So it's safe at all stages of the game. It has a good early game, it has a good mid game, and it can have a good late game if you're pretty good at it, so it just makes it a pretty valuable pick. They also picked Kale, who I mentioned in my Kale video, that some of the professional players are starting to pick her up. Why? Honestly, I don't really know. I know that she did get some changes that made her like have ranged at level 6 and stuff, and her E got a super tiny buff, and of course her ultimate is very good, and she does scale pretty well. And I'm guessing people have just been trying her inside scrims recently out of nowhere. I'm not sure who started it or anything, but it also could be a flex pick into the bot lane because we see the Garen on the other side, and I think that putting Kale against Garen does not sound difficult at all. Onto the next set of bans, we see Fnatic ban Vayne, as she is a good scaler, and they're probably thinking that Kale is going mid at this moment, and just Vayne is someone who can shred through Garen, so he can be worthless later, so they want to ban that away. They also banned the Rakan, probably just to remove one of the hard engaged supports, because actually, so far on the Fnatic side, it looks like they're very poke heavy so far without any hard engage of their own, so they just want to get rid of a champion that can instantly engage on them and make it so they can continue poking with Yuumi and maybe GP Barrels. On the SKT side, we saw them ban away Gragas, who is just a strong jungler in general, but also pretty good versus Lee Sin because he can just body slam when Lee Sin Qs, and Lee can't really prevent Gragas from just hitting him and basically stopping the Lee Sin Q. They also banned away Sylas. Not really sure about why it was banned here. Sylas has been nerfed multiple times, but I'm thinking that the biggest reason maybe is because that they have a lot of good ultimates on the SKT side, and they don't want to possibly give him even bigger ultimates if they pick a support champion that has a really good ultimate like Nautilus and something like that. So they just don't want Sylas to have really good ultis for this game. We then see Effort actually pick his support champion to hide where the Kayle might be going, and even Akali too. This will actually force Fnatic to blind pick their mid lane because, I mean, there's no way to know where Kayle or Akali is going so far, and they don't know if Kayle is basically going either mid lane, bot lane, or Akali maybe even going mid lane and Kayle bot lane too. So it kind of makes it difficult for Fnatic to know what exactly SKT's intentions are, and it's pretty easy to just blind pick a hard engage support, so they actually went for the Nautilus, and we even see him hovering over the Leona, so they're just looking for hard engage versus this Garen Yuumi, just to make it so they have an easier time, because you can't really pick Poke versus them or pick like Morgana or something. You want to pick something that can start team fights. Fnatic actually go into a blind pick Ryze, who has not really been played that much since his nerfs, really. I know that he isn't that weak, but I don't really like the champion too much anymore because I feel that one of his biggest strengths was the constant shielding over and over again. It was super, super annoying to play against, and they completely took that away, so he's just not as tanky anymore, basically. But probably Fnatic were doing well inside scrims with it, and that's why they picked it. That's normally how you can tell why they pick a certain thing. If you ever see someone pick a Heimerdinger inside of a game, it's because they've been practicing it, and it's been having success. So also, it could be that he thinks that he's versus Kayle or Akali, which don't sound like the worst matchups for Ryze. Fnatic also opt into a Rek'Sai pick. I know that Rek'Sai can knock up Lee in a 1v1, but I'm feeling that they only picked Rek'Sai here because there's so many junglers banned. They just wanted to pick a jungler who can farm and not get invaded on, since SKT are probably going to have priority lanes in most cases, it seems, in most of the lanes here. So if they pick a farming, scaling jungler, they'll just get invaded on, and it's going to be very hard for Rek'Sai to, or not Rek'Sai, but another jungler to do something. And the Rek'Sai is basically picked to be like, we don't really need to help you in your jungle because you're a Rek'Sai. You can just farm up inside your jungle, you're going to be fine. Maybe you can do some invading on your own. That's my thought process of the Rek'Sai pick. And then SKT decide to opt into Tristana once they see what Fnatic basically had on the table, who also can be flex picked and once again scales well, because scaling is actually a pretty important side of this meta. So SKT have a pretty good comp. They have a hard engager with major scaling versus a basically poke comp with some scalers, because they do have Ryze and Gangplank. I just think that it looks like SKT's team comp would be easier to coordinate because you just kind of use the Nautilus and go in. I think that would be a lot harder for Fnatic to do anything because you kind of just have to have Rek'Sai engage, kind of, or you just start it with Yuumi Garen and just run at them and poke them, or use Yuumi ulti or something. But SKT's team comp seems pretty straightforward, to me at least. Jumping into game, I will quickly say because these are best of ones, it is extremely common to see cheese happen. One good cheese play can turn an entire game, and I mean, if it's not a best of 3 where the other team has another chance after losing the first game, I mean, it just makes it that much better, so cheesing is extremely common. Fnatic go for a level 1 cheese by looping around the bot lane brush, where either an AD carry or support normally stand. They do have a Yuumi who can slow, and they weren't able to get in range of the Kayle, but they did get a Kayle ward, but nothing really came of it. So meanwhile, Effort actually bought a ward trinket and then swapped to sweeper. Why did he do this? Because if Fnatic saw him earlier, it would show him not having a sweeper, thus they would not be as afraid of an invade. So when someone takes sweeper, it's commonly known that they could maybe invade a bit late, because when they come through your jungle, they can sweep your wards and make it a lot more scary because you can't see them coming. So he actually resets to buy sweeper, and after resetting, he immediately heads back to late invade. And SKT probably planned this from the very beginning. Normally, invades like this are planned much in advance. So when they go in, they spot that there is no wards, and Rek'Sai, Ryze, and Yuumi are extremely weak level 1. That's probably why they are even doing this invade. And Fnatic has 0 hard crowd control, while SKT have Nautilus, who can take hook and lock down people with his passive too. So it's just a super easy level 1 invade. When SKT go in, they actually lose the smite fight and lose the red buff, but SKT are able to hook Garen and able to burst him down because they have hard crowd control. They also are able to burn Rek'Sai's flash, which was extremely close to actually killing him because Lee Sin actually almost hit him with a Q, and it would just take one more Trist auto attack, but they aren't able to get him. And the reason why they even were close to killing Rek'Sai was once again a Nautilus auto attack, just snaring him in place. So because Lee Sin got super chunked and did not get red buff after the invade, he actually resets immediately after taking blue because he got so low and lost a lot of his potions, and having to leash by yourself without taking safeguard, which is his W, which gives him a much healthier clear, is pretty crappy because he wants Q first. So immediately after, he heads off to take red buff as it's the easiest solo camp to take, and Rek'Sai actually reset earlier after getting chunked, so that means he's actually ahead of Lee Sin in camps and looks to put down some vision and maybe even fight Lee, as he has level advantage because he was able to take most of his jungle because he reset much earlier than Lee Sin. Bwipo was able to push in top all the way and reset and run back, saving TP, which is a pretty good play to do, but Khan gets to actually slow push the wave back towards Bwipo during this time. Meanwhile, inside the bot lane, a similar wave scenario with a slow push going towards Fnatic. So I don't know if SKT planned this, but bot and top actually reset extremely close to each other and TP back at the same time. Watching this live, I was actually like, wow, did they actually do this on purpose? Because I'm still unsure if they did on purpose, but it's just very nice to have both of the TPs of separate laners being extremely close together, or basically the same time, because it makes it really easy for when they come back up that they can make a 5-man play somewhere. SKT do a really good job of putting down vision control this game, and it's mostly from just getting priority and then walking in. You can see that Faker, after getting priority mid lane, walks over to get the scrying orb on Fnatic's side to even see where Rek'Sai is, and to clear an enemy ward and put down a deep ward of his own. And then just a little bit later, you can even see Khan getting a ward near Gromp and Blue from his priority. So it's making it really hard for Rek'Sai to really gank without walking over a ward. Every single time that Faker pushes, he actually just walks into Fog of War, which puts Fnatic's communications. I mean, I have a lot of expertise with communications being on teams before, so they're probably saying that, oh, mid is gone and he might be going top lane, so you have to play safe and be careful, and we can't really gank up there. So every single time that Faker leaves, he's putting a lot of pressure on Fnatic to not be able to do anything while he is missing inside of the Fog of War. So Klid comes up after having no camps available to put his pink even deeper in, and to just give SKT even more vision. Once again, SKT have amazing vision control. Even if Rek'Sai does appear, Ryze is so low on mana, they would probably not opt into contesting what Klid is doing here. And this might have even been started from Faker telling Klid that Ryze is low on mana, because that's a pretty common call out. You call out when someone is low on mana so they can't really do anything, so you can invade or do a dragon or something. We then see Bwipo use his TP top lane after getting low from Khan's better purchase and probably just better trading overall, as GP I'm pretty sure is not supposed to win early versus Akali, so eventually I had to TP back. And we also see Ryze TP mid despite having to back on the same window as Faker. So right here you can see that Faker and Ryze actually TP'd pretty similarly, but for some reason he wants to TP back rather than run back. At first, I thought that it could have been pretty valuable just to save TP here, because then he can use it later to maybe stop a TP on SKT side. But looking at it again, it looks like that they were trying to actually get first push into an invade with the mid priority of TPing mid and arriving before Faker. So they want to do a blue invade or something. Unfortunately, nothing really happens though, and Klid takes away blue. But since they were able to see that he used the smite on the blue buff, Rek'Sai actually goes back into the jungle and invades on wolves. and they know that Rise can just play very aggressive on this wave because Faker's not really playing aggressive this game unless he sees where Rek'Sai is. So they felt confident that Rise can just push very aggressive and come over to join the fight if a fight happens. And Claude actually loses his wolves, so we see that Rek'Sai was able to successfully take a wolf away, which, so I mean, they got something out of it. Rek'Sai is spotted on a ward and Faker goes aggressive, knowing that Rise will not be able to win a 1v1 and chunks Rise hard. The reason why Faker has not been really doing this all game, because obviously Tristan is going to beat a Rise doesn't even have a shield anymore, is because when games are extremely important and they're best of ones, you don't get a second chance. It's not a best of 3, it's not a best of 5. You have one chance, and each game really matters. It's extremely important to almost play the 100% play, which is we see Rek'Sai and he's far enough away that if I jump in, there is no chance that he's here because we know where he is, versus the, oh, I think that he's 75% farming inside of his jungle, but there's a 25% chance that he's hovering mid right now. So Faker is playing safe until he knows it's the 100%. We see where everybody is, so I can go in aggressively and there will be no counterplay. Once again, after Faker shoves the mid lane, he puts down a deep pink. Deep pinks are always more valuable than vision in lane because these wards will help spot ganks for every single lane rather than just your own. If you put inside of a lane brush, it's only going to see your own brush, so it's always better to put wards inside deeper vision if you can, even pink wards. Rise is actually able to clear Faker's vision as he can push waves somewhat evenly now with his items and his mana sustain and just being able to clear the waves pretty quickly using EQ probably one time to clear the back wave. And as we can see inside Kayle on the bottom side of the map, she basically has no mana here. She's pretty weak with her current items, and having no mana, that just makes her that much weaker. It's common for pros to actually call out, once again, mana, so they're probably saying something like, Kayle has no mana, and we can push her under tower and get first push because she has no mana. Can we do dragon or something? So, Fnatic actually spot Lee Sin doing Scuttle Crab on this ward, and Rek'Sai can just tunnel over the wall to do the dragon. But what Fnatic didn't see is that Lee Sin actually put down a ward on the dragon, so when Rek'Sai goes over to start it, and he starts it immediately, there's actually a ward there, so yeah. Rek'Sai is shoved off just from the pressure of Lee Sin being nearby, and we saw that also Tristan is coming down, and Kayle is still stuck in lane with 0 mana. But this is where Fnatic make their biggest mistake, and SKT, who used their TPs at the same time earlier, are now in an amazing position. So being a past pro player myself, I've been able to sit in on LCS team scrims, and of course, I mean, I was part of a team, so I know comms pretty well too. So probably SKT's communication was something like, hey, our TPs are coming up, we know that their TPs are down, and we have a flank ward here, and they even ping it out. If they stay aggressive, let's just TP on them. That's literally what the communication probably is. Something similar to that. It could have been maybe faster or less informative, where it's just like, our TPs are up, they're playing aggressive, TP here. Like, because they already knew that the TPs were down earlier from SKT. But, yeah. Fnatic could have prevented all of this if they just did not disrespect the TPs coming back up, and they should have timers on it, pretty clearly. I mean, you're a professional player, you should have timers on it. Effort walks up to Rekkles to make him stay even longer in that position, because he wants to basically make it so Rekkles wants to shove the wave under tower to make it so it's not frozen. So he's trying to bait Rekkles into staying, because Rekkles is like, don't freeze my lane, man, get it, like, stop it. So he'll stay and continue maybe trying to harass the Nautilus from doing that. And by the time Rekkles realizes what is happening, it's just too late. So Fnatic get 3-0'd, and they also lose Mountain Dragon for this play. During this time, GP is actually shoving top lane the entire time and getting a lot of plates, and Faker recalls to catch it. It's actually a very good and fast decision for Faker to do this, because he was the one not shoving bot lane at the time. Akali was. And some amateur teams actually struggle to do this, which is have a different lane catch your big wave since they're resetting faster. So Faker's not just going back mid after he's resetting, he's going top, and then Akali will go catch mid because Faker's busy catching top wave. It's a pretty simple play because you're the first person to reset and you can just go do it, but a lot of people don't do it, even inside amateur play. So GP is pretty far up, and Faker has Blade of the Ruined King now, so he actually fights GP knowing he's going to win easily, right? So he goes in on GP, and almost kills him, and he actually jumps away. I thought to myself, wow, that's not the Faker I know. Wow, I thought that Faker would actually just jump in to definitely kill him and then jump away and maybe flash to survive or something. But what actually happened here is that Faker probably thought that he also would have killed GP. What happens is Faker uses his ulti, then the final auto attack. But you can see that it gets cancelled. This is a super common thing that Tristanas do. You ulti and you can auto attack before the ulti lands, and the auto attack will follow the ult. So the ult and auto would have killed him, but the ultimate is cancelled, probably from vision loss. And we both should have died here, but did not. So Faker probably thought he was going to get him there, and then jumped away. Fnatic then tried to bait Faker into fighting Ryze with Rek'Sai waiting, but Faker has not really been playing aggressive all game, and once again, he only really goes in on Ryze when he sees Rek'Sai. Ryze actually tries to bait it so hard that he walks towards Faker's side of the lane, and despite that, the gank is still unsuccessful, so he just walks up, lets Faker deal a ton of damage to him to try to force Faker onto the side that is actually gankable, because Faker has good topside vision. That's why he's playing towards the top side, and his jungler is up there too. And I think that there could have been a maybe super small window where Rek'Sai flashes forward to stop the Trist jump, but I mean, what can you do? Meanwhile, SKT actually take the Rift Herald, and this is pretty common. This is pretty common among competitive play. A lot of times, objectives are started once you get vision control around them, and you just react to how the enemy reacts. So what you do is you start it, and if the enemy doesn't come, you get it. You get the free Rift Herald. If he does come, just have your maybe priority lanes collapse if you want to fight. I mean, if you got better vision control, you normally can win fights. Vision control really is important for fights. And maybe if he's just coming a little bit in, you can just finish it and get out with a ward hop or something. And if there is no way that maybe you're able to take it because everybody's starting to collapse, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing Rift, you can just leave with a ward hop and you're not going to lose anything except for maybe a little bit of time. So you can see top teams do this for a lot of different buffs and objectives. If you're paying attention and when you see someone take a buff, it's normally because you start it and you just see how the enemy reacts, and if they don't come, then you just get it for free. You can even do this for Baron buffs, and we'll probably be seeing that a bit later. So since Fnatic are now low, SKT pop Rift to take the tower, and Effort is actually on a reset and comes mid to just help in case a fight breaks out, and if they try to defend hard, maybe they can even dive it. Kayle is actually fine in a 1v2 because Garen Yuumi dive is basically non-existent versus a Kayle, so she's completely fine down there. If Fnatic really wanted to, they actually could have all TP'd into River at this moment and tried to flank since all the TPs are up and force a 5v3 because SKT's TPs are down, but either decided against it or the flank is just kind of meh because the ward's not the best. I mean, it would be better if it was a different ward that was closer to SKT, or they just didn't see this play possible at the time. Also, after mid tower falling, SKT got disgusting vision control down once again. Just look at the ward difference on the map. It's insane actually how much better SKT's vision is. Rekkles TP's top to force down the tower while bot lane is shoved in. Dragon is coming up during this time, and I figured that they did this during this time because I figured it was kind of like a force play. I'm like, why are they putting so many people up here just to get a tower when Dragon's coming up? And I think that they mainly did this to try to actually get top pushing, and then they all rotate down to Dragon together so they can actually get their GP to come group with them, because I think GP actually could not get the pressure on his own. Now, doing this top TP play does mean that Kayle gets to freely hit bot and farm alone, while Fnatic just, I mean, don't really get to do anything bot, so she's just free farming down there. So during this time, Fnatic should really try to do something with their numbers advantage. We can even see that it's actually 2 bot, it's not just Kayle bot, and Akali was recently top, and during this time they do have a wave pushing into mid and they're 5-manning. I think Rek'Sai should actually be positioning over this wall to try to dive if they contest. I think that would just be a better position than his current position. Ryze walks up and lands snare, but nobody's even close enough to follow up, and Faker gets really chunked, but he just jumps over the wall and he's completely fine, and Fnatic don't even get the tower. So Fnatic are at 5 at this time, and the dragon is coming up, but it looks like they're not contesting vision, and Akali ults over the wall when they try to actually just finish off the tower. I think that this was actually just to stall Fnatic from taking the tower too quickly. obviously isn't looking to fight there because there wasn't really any teammates around, and we see that Kale's clearly bot lane still. But I'm not sure if it was necessary because there wasn't that many creeps. Um, so there was only like 2 or 3 caster creeps left, so I'm not sure if using the ultimate there was worth it. But because he did go in and he was able to clear some of the wave and Fnatic wasn't able to take it, they have to wait till the next wave, and they were able to stall long enough for Kale to take bottom tower. And I mean, she's been also free farming this entire time, so she's been free farming maybe 3 waves alone bot lane so far, and it adds up. So during this time, we can also see the split vision control on both sides. Fnatic have insane topside vision, but there's not really an objective up there, and then SKT just have vision bot side for the dragon. And despite being still a 5-man team, they just never felt like walking into the bot side to get vision around the dragon. So they just were going to, I guess, give it up and just focus mainly on breaking this mid tower. While Fnatic push 5-man mid, SKT just do the dragon, and Effort actually walks up to pull the wave so it takes longer to crash, thus making it just more difficult to take the tower. And then they can't just take the tower and immediately leave before SKT can arrive. So he's basically trying to stall it so SKT can arrive to the fight as they're doing dragon, because if he doesn't do that, SKT or Fnatic are just going to take the tower and immediately run into the top side, and SKT can't do anything about it. So Nemesis actually harasses Nautilus, but that's actually kind of scary because as soon as his snare ends, Nautilus can hook, which is why he runs towards the wall to make it so Nautilus can't hook him over there, because Nautilus would hook the wall. So he actually kind of separates himself from the team here. At this time, there's also a pink ward, so they actually cannot see Teddy and Faker coming in, but they should know that they're there because they just did dragon. So Fnatic do know that they're there, but they don't see how close they are. Fnatic inside this scenario look extremely flustered. They wanted the tower, but Effort denying the wave and cutting the rise away has now created a weird scenario, and SKT definitely seem like they're the ones to engage it, while it seems that Fnatic are kind of confused about what's going on and are just going to have to react to what's happening. I think during this time, maybe Fnatic weren't thinking about what might happen if everybody comes in, because how is Fnatic going to start this fight with Teddy and Faker being the big threats? How are they even going to get onto the backline with this team comp? And also Gangplank is not even 13 at this point. It's not like Rek'Sai can just jump in, so I don't think that they were really thinking ahead about what's going to happen if Fnatic try to flank them here. Effort does a very good job of doing his champion's job, which is just engaging and using his ultimate. Yuumi jumps out for some reason and gets insta-killed. Just a mistake, I guess. And that's actually quite big because Yuumi is a big damage source and a big healing and kiting with her ultimate, so losing her is a big deal. The fight actually ended pretty quickly with Ryze trying to ulti everybody away, and in the end it was actually a 2-for-1, which is honestly not too bad. I mean, they aren't too far behind in gold, but at the same time I will say during this time when watching live, it seemed that SKT is deciding and then Fnatic is reacting. And when Fnatic decide to do things, they don't fully commit, and sometimes stuff confuses them, like waves are being pulled and it confuses them and they're kind of confused about where to take the game from this point. I felt like SKT were in the driver's seat at this scenario. I was like, alright, SKT are probably just going to win this game, just because when you're inside the driver's seat, you have so much more things that you can do, and when you have to react to the enemy as playing competitively, it feels really bad, and it's pretty difficult to win games like that. So Baron spawns, and now that it's up, of course SKT wants to play around it. To get vision control around it inside a competitive game, it normally relies just having everybody come group for the vision before moving back to side lanes. Kale backs for Gwynsu's, and then that's going to be a pretty big purchase for her, especially for the Baron, and TP's back to make sure that she's not late on pressure. Faker runs down, not shoving in all the way, just to make sure that he can come group for the team for the getting the vision control down, and Akali comes up seeing that there's nobody to match bot, and once again, whenever you get vision during the mid and late game, normally you do it as a 5-man team. So SKT go up and they hard pressure mid lane before walking into the Baron side to put down vision with their team. Akali obviously will not stick around though because she sees GP's bot, so she goes to go match him. To go a little bit more in depth, basically every single time that a team groups, they push in mid lane together before walking into the Baron side to put down the vision, because that will force the enemy to catch that wave, so they won't be in a position to contest when they go to put down that vision control. So SKT's team comp is extremely good at taking Barons, and also they do have a Mountain Dragon too. So if Fnatic don't check Baron for maybe 8 to 10 seconds, I would say SKT can bring it down to maybe 30 to 40%, and by that time, if they see it, Rek'Sai might not even be able to get close enough to it to smite steal it. So it's a very dangerous scenario right now where if they don't have vision control of where SKT is for 8 to 10 seconds, they might even lose the Baron just by SKT rushing it. Baron is almost always done after mid lane's shoved though, so that will give a little bit of a hint for competitive players. So what happens is you don't just leave mid lane, they have the Kayle shove it out, and then she goes to the Baron, and when a new wave comes back, then she will go back to the mid lane again. It's not like she's just going to be missing, so they know that when Kayle shoves and she goes towards the Baron, that's their time that maybe they could be doing it. So Fnatic can't see Kayle after the mid shove, so they actually use their Ryze ulti to get the vision control on the Baron just to make sure that they aren't doing it. Flid actually continues to hover Faker to give him windows to hit the wave first and prevent a possible Rek'Sai gank. This also allows Faker to take top tower, which now will help them get better wave priority in top, as SKT just continue to defend their Baron vision and just keep on trying to take the Baron. During this time, GP was actually able to shove Akali under tower and get first move, and remember what I said earlier about setting up Baron vision, which is that they normally try to get everybody together in most cases. Since GP is coming, that means that they feel confident face checking while they see Akali bot lane, and they can get rid of some of the SKT's vision. So Fnatic got down vision, great, although it basically is just to prevent SKT from doing it for a little bit, because during the time Akali was pushing bot alone this whole entire time, so GP actually has to leave and go back bot. And since Akali is alone and pushed in, now she has a window to do whatever she wants. She can do the same exact thing or just get a reset off, which is what she decides to do. She doesn't decide to do the vision control because we know that SKT can do that on their own and she can just reset instead. Fnatic then try a ghost play. If you don't know what a ghost play is, this is commonly done when you have a lane with TP trail behind one of the side laners behind them out of vision. So what they want to happen is they want Akali to go onto GP because maybe he wastes his barrels or just pretends that he's dumb or something. He wants her to go onto him so they can kill her in a 2v1 scenario. SKT meanwhile spot that Garen and Rek'Sai are bot side by just one of them using the scrying plant, so they know that someone is bot side during this time. This is a go button for SKT to try the Baron if they're currently on the Dragon, because the Dragon is up. If Fnatic are on Dragon, they probably can't get to Baron in time. GP is forced to ulti just to get SKT off of the Baron. Meanwhile, Akali is not playing aggressive, so Ryze is just wasting time inside the bot lane. Fnatic loses their one ward that was used to actually see SKT start the Baron, and once the GP ulti expires, Baron actually did not fully reset, so SKT go back onto it. This forces out the TP of GP, which is exactly what they want. When doing Baron plays like this, where you just start it and get off of it, you just try to keep on doing it and get the either cooldowns, like summoner spells like TP, or important cooldowns like GP ulti off. SKT just run off of the Baron, and now they have a 6-minute window with GP having no TP. Of course, Ryze can stay bot though as the TP user, because they do have multiple champions with TP, so. Since SKT actually had to run up, that means Fnatic get the inside tracked back to mid lane, but are unable to take the tower, and GP actually loses his flash. Ryze actually pushes up pretty far, and Clid and Faker actually see Ryze for a moment on a ward and try to catch him, but he just Ryze ultis out. A fight actually breaks out mid, and when I first saw this, I was like, oh, Fnatic is actually abusing Faker and Lee being bot side. What a fast decision. They're actually trying to win the game by being quick with their decision, and they're going to try to take over the driver's seat. But after looking at the map, it actually looks like Nautilus hooked Garen, and it's SKT starting the fight. And I'm thinking that they're actually doing this because they have Akali coming from mid lane, and Faker and Lee actually are going to arrive before Ryze because they pushed him out with the Ryze ult. The fight actually goes pretty well for SKT, and they could have probably Baron, but instead of going for Baron with Rek'Sai being dead, they actually hard chase Ryze, who was ultied away by Trist, making him harder to kill. Yeah, Faker actually made a mistake here, and even gods can make mistakes despite their amazing game. um, Rise actually does a sick outplay and kills Clid though. So Clid goes extremely hard for him, and Rise has actually outplays him, gets a Clid kill, and is able to escape, and SKT don't get to the Baron. But at the end, SKT do get to take the dragon as a consolation prize. SKT go immediately back to the original plan of just playing around Baron. I mean, GP is now forced to go top because he has no TP, and Rise must go bot. SKT start the Baron in GP ultis and guarantee TPs, another play that SKT just won. Continue just burning important cooldowns and forcing the enemy to check it. SKT then start up the Baron again, and we see that there's on the way ping to the ward in the middle of the lane, which I believe is Akali's. So SKT actually are not trying to just do the Baron here, and they're actually planning to turn and fight with an immediate TP from Akali to flank as the fight starts. Rise actually TPs 4 seconds later, which is huge for teamfight damage. This is the reason why being inside the driver's seat is so important inside of games. I mean, if you're the one to decide and start and don't have to react, you get to be able to join fights much faster, especially using TP plays. If Fnatic decided to start the fight and have Rise TP in, maybe Fnatic could have even won this fight, seeing how close it was with no Rise during the beginning of it for 4 seconds. Also, we can see that Bwipo put down one barrel during this teamfight, queued it early so it didn't explode, and then autoed one time before dying, showing that EU top talent is alive and kicking. With Akali TP down, everyone kinda just 5-man groups and looks for fights, with Faker and Clid trying to sneak Baron one time, but the ward just spots them out. Bwipo uses his ulti to get them off when they legit just saw them walk over to it, so there was no way that it was low here, so I'm not really sure why he used his ulti immediately. And Fnatic begin to start a good fight where Faker and Lee Sin are not inside of it, where they probably could have really used Bwipo's ultimate. Kayle actually gets extremely low here and eventually dies, but Rekkles actually missed his ulti, I think, because it was not, I'm pretty sure not supposed to go on Nautilus here. I'm pretty sure it was trying to go for Kayle to kill her. Kayle actually gets to auto attack, it looks like 3 to 4 times on Bwipo because of this mistake, and that actually deals pretty good damage. If Kayle would have died, maybe Bwipo could have survived longer, and maybe Fnatic can maybe even turn this fight because it was pretty close. Faker almost dies for Rise flashing in for the final damage, but SKT were able to win the fight. That really started inside Fnatic's favor from just maybe a few misplays of the GP ulti plus the Garen ulti. And SKT finally get that Baron from that one team fight after trying it like 6 different times now. With the Baron, SKT set up a 1-3-1 to at least get minion pressure in all 3 lanes. They aren't looking to split push 1-3-1 though, they're just trying to get all of the waves pushing towards them so that can make it so maybe they could have some numbers advantage across the board. So Akali resets after pushing to go group mid with her new large rod inside of her pants. Meanwhile, Rise tries to ghost GP again, thinking that she is still inside the bot lane. With a 4-1, SKT are able to get the top tower but can't really siege anymore as the wave clear is just too good and they don't really seem comfortable diving. So instead they once again set up a 1-3-1 just to get all of the waves pushing just like last time before everybody heads bot lane now to take the last tower. Once again they set up a 4-1 with the 4 trying to take the bot lane tower, and Kayle actually sees that she doesn't really need to be there because they're just giving up the bot lane tower, and SKT decide to reset. But they actually don't reset together completely, and with one staggered reset, Rise does not hesitate and they chase down Akali. After Akali is dead, Kayle and Naut were actually trying to take mid inhib during this time, and they get collapsed on by the TPs of Fnatic. Now Fnatic do have numbers advantage here because they did see 2 people reset, but of course they will join the fight eventually, but they do know that the Akali is dead, so it will be a 4v5 if everybody can make it there, but remember that Rek'Sai has to run all the way there too. So Fnatic try the chase, and once Kayle flashes away, I don't know who made the call to continue chasing, but made the mistake of continuing when Faker and Clid are arriving, and there was just no real way to get onto the Kayle. Also, she had ulti during this whole entire point. I don't think that this was a real opportunity to make the turnaround for the game. So SKT just wiped the board and basically just finished off the game. I'm not going to point fingers, but one player did pretty poorly this game and made pretty big mistakes that made it much harder for Fnatic to win. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary, and let me know if you guys think that it was too detailed or just too long. Just let me know what you guys would enjoy about it. It took a long time to actually make this video, surprisingly, and I will see you guys next time. With the Baron, SKT looked to set up a 1-3-1 to get at least minion pressure in all 3 lanes. They aren't looking to split push with a 1-3-1 though. Akali resets to group mid with her new large rod in her pants, while